Welcome to Heart with Keisha B, the podcast that focuses on the journey of grief, healing, and overcoming unforeseen circumstances. Whether you're dealing with loss or life challenges, this is a podcast that you don't want to miss. I am your host, Keisha B. So take a deep breath, open your mind and your soul, and sit back as we embark on this journey together. Hello, everyone. Give everybody a few minutes to join us today on Heart to Heart with Keisha B. While we're waiting, and if you are on the screen at this moment, I'm going to ask you to, if you're on our YouTube page, to go over to YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, push that button, so that way that every time that I do an episode, you will be the first to be alerted. Again, Heart to Heart with Keisha B. You can find me on YouTube. You can also find me on Facebook. But more importantly, I want you to go over to Heart to Heart with Keisha B on YouTube. Subscribe, push that button to make sure that every time I drop a new episode, you are the first to be alerted. So I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to join the room, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. How you doing over there, Tony?
I'm doing well. I am doing well.
Doing well. That's good, Tony. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, because I need people to know who you are, right? I need people to be impacted by your story. So as you all know, today you are on Heart to Heart with Keisha B. As always, I am dropping an episode that's going to do nothing but inspire you, empower you, and give you something to think about as you in today's session. So today we have Mr. Tony. As you see, he's with us today. He is virtual, just like you all are. He is going to give us a little bit about his life, and not just a little bit, but enough to inspire and impact you and make you think, darn, I thought I was all alone. But guess what, guys? Y'all not. So Mr. Tony Lynch is the founder of nonprofit Memories of Us Limited. He is the host of the podcast Grief, Let's Talk About It. He's also an author, a program designer, a conference host, and more importantly, he is a men's life coach. So Tony, as I always do with all my guests, I want to say welcome to Heart with Keisha B. I want to thank you for being able to come into this space today and give your all to our guests. I know that we're going to have a lot of people joining us today, but for my men, right? If you're out here and you know somebody that needs to listen to this, go ahead and hit them up, whether you call them, whether you text them, whether you tag them onto the original post that you saw today. I want you to bring them into this session. So Tony, how you doing today?
I am doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Thank you for being a part of our show today. And as you all know, this is a bonus episode. It's not a regular episode, right? It's something that I was thinking about today, and I said, you know what? I need our men to be empowered today. So it's not our regular episodes that we normally have. It's a bonus episode. As you all know, last week I had a bonus episode. The young lady, she brought it to us, right? And so today it's only fitting to bring Tony with us. So Tony, again, why don't you give our audience a little bit about you and who you are and why you're here with us today?
Well, as you said before, I'm the founder of the nonprofit Memories of Us. I have been doing work with men for over 5 years. My nonprofit, I finally got my 501(c)(3) 4 years ago. And you know, just like most of us, we start in because we want to try to make a difference. And my biggest thing is that I actually just wanted to surround myself with other men to learn how to navigate the world of grief, because it was such an unfamiliar thing with me. And so to backtrack a little bit, you know, the world of grief to me impacted me through the loss of both of my parents, my younger brother and my son. And being a man, no one ever taught me any of this, right? That it was okay to hurt or, how to talk about it. I was always taught to man up, just keep moving, push it down. And it wasn't until that actually really backfired on me.
Yeah.
It backfired on me something fierce. I thought I was doing good. I ended up losing everything.
Mm-hmm.
Made some really bad decisions, really, really bad decisions, which cost me my company, cost me my home, and almost cost me my life.
Yeah.
And I realized in that journey, I had reached my version of rock bottom. I was never, I used to be an alcoholic, but I never turned to drugs or alcohol during this process. I thought I was okay,
Mm-hmm.
and only to find out I wasn't. And it took me, it took me to a place, a really dark place, to where I was 2 seconds away from taking my life, and that's where everything changed. This new version of Tony emerged. This thing called grief began to educate me. It became my comforter. It became my companion. It became everything that I needed.
Right.
And then it became my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as they say, divine intervention, that voice that comes in, and that's where everything changed. I was 2 seconds away, and that voice said, "Hey, whoa, no, you don't get to do that." I
Right.
was like, "Who are you?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, me and that voice had a long talk, and I wanted to justify where I was at,
Right.
and that voice said, "No, you don't get to justify it. Everything that you've gone through was all part of what you're going to do." I
Mm.
said, "Well, I think you got the wrong person. I really do." You know,
Uh-huh.
I laid out my life and it laid it out beside me. It was like, yeah, all of these things that you've had to go through was all because you needed to go through this in order to do this.
Right.
And everything I threw at it, it was like, well, in order for you to be able to do this, you had to experience this. And I was like, well, what about this? And the voice said, yeah, well, that too.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, hmm, I'm not quite sure what we're supposed to do here because it almost seemed as if you was picking on me a little bit, like. And the voice said, "No, I wasn't picking on you." I said, "Then what we got going on then,
Right.
right?" You know what I'm saying? Like we need to have a discussion. The long story short, we got to talk about this, because I'm starting to feel as if all of these things I had to experience, that was all I had to experience. And that
Mm-hmm.
voice said, "Oh, you really thought your life was about you, huh?" I said,
Mm-hmm.
well, since you put it that way, you know, um, it was about me. And the boy
Right.
said, no, it wasn't. But I'm about to show you something. And I tell you what, Keisha, the voice said, I want you to look this way. And that it was that proverbial path, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it said, you see that little gap right there? That's your path. But you see all the stuff that's on top of it? You're going to have to clear that out. And it's going to reveal something to you. But
Mm-hmm.
do me a favor, do me a solid. Don't take your eyes off.
That's deep.
Follow me. Don't take your eye. Don't go venturing off on the sides and anything like that. Because if you do, there's something over there. Now I'm gonna protect you and I'm gonna guide you, but follow me.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
so I did.
so Tony, you said something. You said, "Man up." Take me back to the day that you remember hearing "man up." How old were you when you heard that?
Oh shoot, I was 6 years old when I first heard the term man up, and that came after the first time I was molested.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to tell people, and no one believed me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, the second time that it happened, you're like, when it happened, they were like, "Boy, just man up," they're like, men don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "No, you don't understand. He did. He did," and no one believed me. Oh man, man up, man. You know what I'm saying? And whenever I got my butt whipped or something like that, they were like, "Oh man, no, keep your head up, man." You know what I'm saying? Well, ain't nobody got time for all that old, sissy old crying and stuff like that. You're a young man, so start acting like one. You do something, you gotta pay the price for it. You know what I'm saying? And this is
Mhm.
one of those. So you're gonna have to just figure it out and stop getting your little butt in trouble. So, all right, that.
Mhm.
And so when that came to light, I realized there was nobody that was going to save me.
Right.
Right? There was nobody going to save me, and so I started using it to my advantage. If there's nobody that's going to come and save me, and there's nobody that's going to believe me after I told them that this happened, well, I can turn this around. So when he tried to do it the third time, I had bought myself a little knife about yay big, and I stuck it in his stomach. And I
Mhm.
told him, I said, no one believed me that you was doing this to me. I said, but now here we are. You
Mhm.
have a choice to make. If you scream, they're going to come up here and they're going to find you just like this. Me, 6 years old with my pants down and everything else. They're going to know I was telling them the truth. My family's going to kill you.
Mhm.
I said, or you can deal with that. I'm not going to pull the knife out. You're going to pull it out. You're going to have to stitch yourself up and everything else. But you'll never touch me again. Don't look in my direction. Don't do anything. And he chose not to say anything,
Mhm.
but he never touched me again. But the damage that it had did to me was almost irreversible,
Of course.
right? Because
Mhm.
now I see the world differently.
Mhm.
I see the world in a place of there are people that are really capable. There's people that's capable of doing really bad things to other people, especially children.
Mhm.
I have to protect myself.
Mhm.
I can no longer walk this earth and think that I'm going to be okay. This is not okay.
Right.
And so I started really paying attention to the environment that I was in, right? And I realized that I was always surrounded by gang bangers and drug dealers and pimps and killers, you know, and all of these different things. And I was like, I'm gonna have to become a different version of me
Mhm.
in order to survive in this world. So I did. I did. I became
Mm.
that version of me. But now here's the kicker part about it. I was still my mom's son.
Mhm.
I was still my dad's baby boy, straight A
Mhm.
student in school. I was my sister's protector. You know what I'm saying? That was my baby girl. And so I still had to maintain that without getting, because my mom would have found out any of the stuff I would have done. She would have broke my butt in half.
Right.
Right. So I had to keep up a facade. I had to keep straight A's in school. Right. I still had to come home and be respectful. I still
Mhm.
had to go rake Big Mama's yard. I still had to
Right.
put out the trash. I still had to do all of these things.
Mhm.
But then I learned, I was like, well, my mom's not around me all the time. And we're on welfare. And I like the Timberlands. I like the goose down jackets. I like the nice cars. I like seeing all of these different things. I like having money in my pocket. So just like any other kid, 11 years old, I started selling little nickel rocks on the block, right? $5
Mhm.
$10 here, what I'm saying, $20 there. And next thing you know, it went from that and kind of escalated over the years. And I went from doing that and still kept a really good image, right?
Mhm.
Quiet in school, you know, um, come home, do my chores. Yeah, I got in a lot of trouble and stuff like that, but my mom never even knew that I was out there selling drugs.
Right.
She
And
didn't
you
even,
said this was at 11.
yeah, that's at 11.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I did that for 4 years until I finally got caught. And my mom actually put two and two together like almost 3 days before.
Mhm.
And she was like, "Hey, whoa, whoa!" I was like, "Yeah, oops, right?" Because
Yeah.
because I still wore the hand-me-down clothes.
Okay.
I was smart enough to go, you know what? I can't go out there and buy buy all the expensive clothes, but I can put a little money in my mom's coat or in her drawer so she could take care of rent and put some food in the fridge.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know what I'm saying? She might think that it's coming from her boyfriend or my dad. And
Right.
but I kept it like that. I kept it
Mm-hmm.
like that up until that point where she was like, I now understand. All the rumors that people were telling me is true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mama. Also, that out there, that's mine too. She was like, huh. So you're just a lot smarter than what I gave you credit for. I was like, did you just call me dumb?
Uh-huh.
He was like, no, I just didn't think that you were, it was kind of hard for me to believe that because you're still a straight A student in school. You still, what I'm saying, maintain a very respectful character around here. But now I understand that what these kids are telling me, you're out there fighting all the time, selling drugs, you selling guns, you shooting, you're like you doing all kinds, you're doing the most out here.
Mm-hmm.
Now I see that is true. And my mom taught me. She taught me really good lessons, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did eventually leave home and went to DC for 2 years, got my GED, and had my first kid, age of
Mm-hmm.
17, and moved to Colorado, and things kind of went downhill from there.
Mm-hmm.
It really did. It went downhill from there. And I say all of this to say this because as being a young man in the world, we're not taught how to deal with a lot of things, right?
Right.
We taught to be a man,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there were certain ways that you had to conduct yourself, and that's just the way that it was.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like no crying or anything like that. And I say all of these things because it actually starts to put things into perspective,
Mm-hmm.
right? So at the age of 17, had my first kid. 6 months later, I had to walk away from them, or actually send them away from me, right? And everything, because now, incident happened. I beat a guy almost half to death, and had to pretty much make a choice, like, hey, you're gonna have to take her and get away from me, because now the gangs know who I am. No matter where I go, I
Mm-hmm.
realized right then and there that no matter where I go, this is going to follow me.
Right.
And there was something about it. I knew that I had to finish it out. And whether or not if I was going to die or survive it was still a question,
Mm-hmm.
right? But all I knew is I have to go back into survival mode. Here I am in a totally different state, no family, no one.
Mm-hmm.
And game banging became the thing. And I went deep into it, very deep into it. Here I am out there throwing up gang signs. Now I'm hanging back out with the fellas and, drinking 40 ounces and smoking blunts and, slanging drugs and getting into more fights because that darkness came back again.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a part of me. It was all a part of me. Now, mind you, I had ever since then I had been living in and out of hotels. If I didn't have money to pay for the hotels, I was out on the streets. It wasn't like I was hanging out with the homies at the house or anything like that. Hell, it was all pretty much all in the same situation, you
Right.
know. But it became normal, right? It became a normal thing to live like that.
Mm-hmm.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. You had to be on your P's and Q's. Oh,
Right.
you think you're gonna lay in that bed and be comfortable? Yeah, I dare you to.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's gonna be a person like myself that come kicking in that door, and you're not gonna like what I do. So
Right.
I got really good at maneuvering in the shadows and stuff like that. And being in the gangs, it gave me an outlet, right? I can hurt people and be praised for hurting people
Mm-hmm.
because I know how to inflict a lot of violence. I do. That was my survival. I know how to inflict violence on people.
Mm-hmm.
And so everybody's like, oh man, he crazy, man. Oh yeah, man, did you see what he did to such and such? Oh man, you should have seen when he ran up on those dudes over there, man. He went, oh, this, that, another. And I did that for over 20 some years.
Wow.
For 24 years. 5 of those 24 years I spent in prison for a crime I never committed, but I took it as a slap on the wrist. So from 94 to 99, I was in prison. And I got out only to run into some dudes that I had gotten into before I went into prison, and they were still
Mhm.
mad about what I did, right?
Of
And
course.
so they decided to put 22 slugs in me. And I looked out, and the crazy part about it, Keisha, I wasn't even mad that they shot me. I just
Mhm.
laughed because I was mad. I was more upset that they let me walk away than anything else.
Right.
And I was like, man, y'all didn't realize I got to come back and get you now. Y'all, you couldn't even finish this? Are y'all crazy? No,
Mhm.
no. So we got to do this now. And so I went to war. I went to
Right.
war with them. And until they called a truce and was like, we're tired. We don't want to keep doing this. I was like, oh no, we're not done yet. We're not done.
Mhm.
Remember when I came to you and said, let me have them right over there, but y'all decided to protect them. And I told you if I came back, I'm getting everybody. That means that whoever's riding down the street and I see you, I'm going to get you, and you're going to try to get me. And this is just the way that it is, right?
Mhm.
And so that's what it was. I was like, nah, you don't get to walk away from this. And eventually, the funny part about it was they were like, "Look, we got to stop." Right? I was like,
Right.
"Why? Why do we have to stop? I'm having fun. Y'all don't understand. I'm having a lot of fun right now. I will destroy your neighborhood, the whole
Mhm.
thing, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. Okay?
Right.
Like y'all got me, and now I got to get you back. You should have killed me. That's what you should have did because it saved me the trouble. Save yourself the trouble. Just go ahead and finish the job. But since you don't, well, here we are.
Right.
And then eventually I walked away from everything because I realized that the people that I was around, the people that I thought that cared about me,
Mhm.
they didn't.
Mhm.
I hadn't gotten set up twice on two separate occasions by them to get killed. But the first time I forgave them, I was like, maybe it's just one of those things, this, that, another, not putting two to two together because the streets had their claws in me, right? Now, mind you, at this present point in time, I'm saying I'd already been homeless probably 10 or 11 times, like legit homeless,
Right.
where I would disappear um, and be out on the streets sleeping in dumpsters, sleeping behind dumpsters, breaking in people's cars, sleeping in the back seat and stuff, and jumping out the car before they get up and go to work because I would always keep an eye out on them and stuff like that. And they, no one would ever know that I was there, going and waiting for like fast food restaurants to throw out their food and stuff like that. And I would go in there and grab the bag, you know what I'm saying, and eat like the burgers and stuff like that, or go grab the donuts that they just threw out, and what I'm saying, be carrying around a big old bag of donuts and sitting down and eating those and stuff like that. Little stuff like that. People throw away, half drinks and stuff like that, and I would take that and drink that, because I was thirsty. You know, it was it was a rough one.
Yeah.
And that's not even including the times where I've seen friends get killed, um, the multiple fights that I had been in, the
Mhm.
shootouts, the beat downs from the police, all of these different things, these things actually just kind of followed me along the way. And I moved around a bit after that. Figured I ain't got nothing else going on, right?
Mhm.
And so I did. I moved around a lot. And got to a point to where, you know, the first attempt at taking my life, it wasn't even an attempt at taking my life. I was going to coerce someone else to do it. And what
Mhm.
I mean by that, here I am, tired, beaten down, everything. But I'm still, I went back to the hood and I ended up seeing the blood, and I was, and I thought to myself, I got this gun, but the gun, I tried shooting it one time before, and luckily it didn't go off because I would have probably killed the dude that I was going to shoot at, because it was point blank, but the gun jammed up, so I figured it didn't work. And sure enough, um, out in the crowd, broad daylight. I saw this guy and I was like, oh, this is the perfect time. The gun doesn't work. I know him. I know he has a gun. So what I'm about to do, I'm about to go over here. We about to get into the fades, right? We're gonna go fisticuffs. I'm going to beat him. But this man is known for shooting people. And I know, you know what I'm saying? And I know if I turn my back, he's going to kill me. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
cool. So now I got this thing mapped out. And I tell you what, I did. I went over there and I beat the holy crap out of him. I didn't knock him out or anything. I just made him really, really upset with me. And I turned my back just like I thought, just like I said I was. And I pulled my gun out because what I know when he saw the gun, he was going to get me. And I turned around and I shot him in the side. I was like, huh, all right. So I ended up having to take off again. Oh God, man.
So, Tony, I want to ask you a question because you brought up something I think that is important for our listeners to hear and to be able to process. You talked about when you were 6, you talked about when you were 11. 6, someone didn't believe you, family didn't believe you. 11, you went out in the street and you began to sell drugs. Didn't think mom knew. Prior to getting arrested, mom then started to pick up. If you can go back to that 6-year-old kid again, and you were able to get people to truly hear you, what would you tell a parent if that was their 6-year-old kid? What would you tell a parent today if that was their 11-year-old kid who thought he or she was getting away with something? What should they look for to be able to say, I need to try to help my kid to not have to man up and or not get himself or herself in trouble? What would you tell that parent about that 6-year-old or 11-year-old kid today?
Stop teaching them to man up. Listen to them. Kids aren't making this stuff up. I know kids have a very vivid imagination, right? A very vast imagination. But when it comes down to someone hurting your child, maybe you should pay attention to them because you can possibly save that person or save that child the trouble. Because what happens after that, if they're anything like me, and most of these kids will probably blow me out the water with their intelligence, things like that, right?
Right.
Pay attention to their behaviors. Pay attention to the people that they're hanging around. Watch how they move. Watch how they talk, right? But most importantly, just listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I found out was I wasn't the only kid that this guy did this to. His mom knew what he was doing, but it was like the secret, right? It's like the family member that you know that you when you got kids, don't leave the kids with him. Y'all know how he is, but don't nobody you can turn them in. And so you allow that person to go out there and keep doing that crap. And then when they come into grown adults like myself, we are so damaged. We are so damaged because our whole entire lives, all we wanted was somebody to come and protect us. Now you throw us to the wolves. Now we got to become a wolf. And now you're going to get upset about how I have to survive in this world? Now, listen to him. Because I had to go back and I had to heal that young child. That scared little young boy that had to go out of here into that world. When I did the work and had actually started healing and everything, I had to go back and I had to fight with him too. He didn't trust me. That young boy, that young version of me did not trust me.
Right.
I had to earn trust with him. A lot of trust. And I had to comfort him. I had to let him know that he wasn't by himself.
Right.
That all of these many years later, you became a good person. But you did a lot of bad things. And I learned how to walk with him. And then we became teenagers together. And that young boy turned into a teenager. Then I had to do the same thing with him. because he had trust issues, he had anger issues, he had abandonment issues. He didn't know how to function in the world without chaos.
Mhm.
All he knew was how to survive. And I had to go in and come and heal that version of me. Then the alcoholic version of me. I had to walk with him until he was ready to put that bottle down. Let him know that it's okay, right? Everything is going to work out because that
Mhm.
version of me didn't understand this version of me. And then I had to walk with that version until my 20s and then my 30s. And I had to let him know that, hey, it is going to get better. It may not seem like it right now. I know with all the homelessness and everything, and I know it seems pretty bad, but as it does get better, we're going to have to keep it going. We're going to have to keep going, but that's okay. I'm going to walk with you. And then I got in my 30s, and things started getting a little bit better. And that version of me was an alcoholic, and I was still going, hey, um, I get it. But let me walk with you. And then in my early 30s, I had my son.
Mhm.
And I backed off because I realized that that version of me was starting to catch up to the adult version of me, right? And
Mhm.
so I had to watch that version of me go through some things. And I went in, you know what I'm saying, periodically and going, hey, it's going to be all right. You're doing good, right? I didn't want to take away from the moment of being a father and things like that because that was a happy time. That was a real happy time, you know, all except for the version of all except for the part of having his mom was a narcissist, and things like that. But I came back in when that part came. I was like, oh, she's crazy, but you're gonna have to learn how to forgive.
Mhm.
Now I'm still
Strong
angry.
word.
Yeah, you're gonna have to learn how to forgive, right? You know what I'm saying? Because that part of me was like, ooh, I'm gonna get this person, but then
Mhm.
I was like, no, you got your son. Make sure you do what you got to do for him. And I did. And I did. And I began to grow into the person that you see now. But the crazy part about it was is that, I lost my father.
Mhm.
I lost my younger brother 3 months after that. I lost I lost my son, and then 2 years after that, I lost my mom. And I just went, man, how do you tell the grown up version of yourself that is going to be okay?
Right.
So here I am now, you know what I'm saying, running a nonprofit, doing podcasting, being an author, writing a magazine, hosting conferences and things. How do you tell that version that it's going to be okay from there? Right.
Mhm.
So you have to sit back and you have to watch all of this transpire through the eyes of another version of you. But knowing that if you interfere, you may throw the trajectory off.
Mhm.
But you want to see where it is that you needed some more healing because now you're an orphan in the world, right?
Mhm.
Now you're an orphan in the world, and now everything that you have is gone. It's a rough one to be able to go back and look on that and go, "Ooh, yeah, I'm tired. I'm tired, right?" And then watching yourself grow, stumble,
Mhm.
fail, try to get back up, and life be lifing on you, right? Because you don't truly understand. So you got to sit this one out.
Mhm.
You got to sit this one out. You got to watch this one. You can't interfere. You can't intervene. But when the time comes, those two will meet. But you got to watch it. And that's the most painful thing that you will ever do. And that's what we call healing. Now,
Mhm.
as a man, having to go through this, having to suffer in silence in my mental health, in my alcoholism, in my homelessness, in my suicidal ideation, and all of the struggles that I had to go through, and be able to go, huh, yeah, no, this is not what I signed up for,
Mm-hmm.
to doing what I do now. And having grief come in and saying, you're not alone anymore, Tony. Allow me to walk with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, I don't even know who you are.
Was it still a matter of not having trust? It
Yeah,
was
well,
coming up.
I didn't trust the process
Right.
because I had trusted everything else, and it backfired on me. It actually beat me up pretty doggone good.
Mm-hmm.
You ever see Bruce Lee in a fight with all those people, and he's over there with the nunchucks and stuff like that? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's what it was like. Except for I didn't have nunchucks and I didn't win.
Right.
Right? They just beat up on me, was like, oh, tossing me up, and then next thing I know, I'm trying to get away. They drug me all back in. I got to get up and fight. No, 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 no. You know, and so throughout all of that, it was like, man, what are you? What is this?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell you what, the best decision I ever made after almost taking my life the second time was to stop fighting and just surrender.
Surrender.
And when you've been a fighter your whole entire life, that word surrender is not in your vocabulary, right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
no, I'm not doing that, right? But I had nothing else left. I had nothing else left. But it was what came after that. That was the key. That was the key because I let go of everything, and it began to take me in a different direction. And it began to just teach me what grief was. It began to
Mm-hmm.
help me learn how to articulate what was going on with me. Then I wasn't afraid anymore. I did have to go through some really bad relationships and things like that. But I don't, I'm not mad at them. I appreciate them
Mm-hmm.
because of the things that they were saying, that was said to me. I was like, oh, I didn't like that. Right. But it helped me make decisions. It helped me make decisions. It helped me understand, more in depth that, when unless people go through what you've gone through, they'll never fully understand where you
Right.
right. And so I was like, oh, okay, you know, okay, what else is it? What else is going on with this, right? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and then, throughout all the healing, I realized that, the trauma, that I had endured, and things like that, it was all part of the plan, the journey, the story. And that it had nothing to do with me. Even this had nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, so it's not personal. It's not personal. So I started to develop that thought pattern. Like life is honest with you. It's truthful. It is us that lie and say, this is how I want to be. This is what I'm
Right.
going to be. Right. And then when it doesn't turn out that way, we get upset because it didn't turn out that way. I've done everything I was supposed to. Right. And then we're just like, okay, like that wasn't supposed to work out that way. But life said, no, that's not what I said.
Mm-hmm.
You made those promises. Don't blame me. So, life was life. It was doing its thing. And I was like, oh, but it was guiding me. It was directing me. It was correcting me. It was disciplining me through humiliation and humbleness. And in that, I found me. I found the more authentic version of me that was starting to come to light. And grief was my guide,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I never read a book on it. No one ever taught me that or any of this stuff, right? And so when I started becoming curious about it, and the voice said, this is what I need you to do." I said, "Nope." Mm-mm. And I said, "You really got the wrong person. I hope you know this, right? You want me to go out here and do what? Do you know how hard it is to get men to talk to them? Like, yeah, but you're gonna do it." I said, Mm-mm, mm-mm. No, you got me messed up. I said, but look, here's what I'm gonna do. I said, if this is really what I'm supposed to do, I'm gonna go get all these certifications because I think that this is gonna be a test, right? I'm not gonna read the book, but if this is truly what I'm going to do, I'm gonna do the test and see where I am. But if I fail one of those tests, you let me go. Meaning, you let me go. You don't bother me no more. I go to the mountains somewhere. I'll disappear. I'll never go back into society ever again. I'll live out the rest of my days in the mountains. I know how to hunt. I know how to fish. I know how
Right.
to start a fire. I'll never come back down into the city. You'll never have to worry about me ever again. And so I did.
Mhm.
I went out there and I was a man of my word. Now, mind you, I'm still homeless as I'm doing this. And now I'm working nights. So that's where the money came from for me to get these certifications. I'm working nights and I started, finding these little websites. I was like, I'm gonna take this certification and I would pass on it. That's crazy, right? And so and then I get the next certification. I became a recovery coach. That's crazy, right? And then I got my mental health first aiders certification. Aced it. It's like, oh man, you really gonna hold me to this, aren't you? I said, well, I'm gonna get my suicide intervention from QPR, and I aced it. I said, you know what? You're not funny. You're not funny. You just pretty much setting me up right now, right? And so something a couple months later, about a few months later, I said, something hit my heart, and it had been tagging on me for quite some time. And I said, you know what? I'm starting a nonprofit. This was 2019. And I remember telling my buddy, I'm gonna do a nonprofit. He goes, what are you gonna do? I said, I want to help men like myself. I want to create a space for us.
Right.
And it started off because I wanted to create that space. I wanted to be surrounded by other men so I can learn. And so that's where Memories of Us was born from. And again, now mind you, I've already had this talk with the voice, and he set me along this path, and he said that it's going to be hard, but keep my eyes fixed on him. So I did. I just didn't realize how far along the path I had gotten. It wasn't too far, but what I'm saying, all the junk inside of there. Now, all of this healing, it was all of the things that I had gone through that I had never dealt with. That's what was on the path. It put me in a position to go in and deal with them and begin to heal so I can clear the path.
Right.
I was like, oh man, okay. But I didn't know. I didn't know. So when the nonprofit came, it just kept going and kept going and kept going. And then finally I was like, you know what? Here's what I'm gonna do. I want to get an office space. And I want to work with some other organizations. I want to do some support groups and stuff like that. Still with the mission and vision in mind that I wanted to work with men, but I wanted to. So now I had to put those four elements together: suicide intervention, mental health, um, and grief coaching, right? And but also
Hmm.
physical health, understanding all of these. These is how I intertwine these things. And I did it in a way I said, I don't want to do that, but I know someone who does. That's better. That's going to be better at it than me. So I bring in all these organizations, and some of them, they was just starting an organization. I said, I'll help you, right? Mind you, I'm still homeless. No one really paid no attention to this. You know what I'm saying? We're
Hmm.
just working nights, and I now got an office space, and I'm paying for it out of pocket. And you know what I'm saying? I'm not asking anything from anyone. And
Right.
then it got to a point I started podcasting, um, and that's that saying: be careful of the people that you let around you, because those will be the ones that just try to destroy you. So, that goes on for a while, and I finally realized that I was spending more time helping them build up what they were doing that I took away from what I was doing. And finally, I was like, look, I need to go and work on doing this over here. And I must have said something wrong because they were like, oh, now you're being selfish. You want you do all about you and this. they totally forgot all the other stuff. And they tore me apart.
Mm-hmm.
They talked bad about me. They drug me through the mud. I was selfish and everything. Now, mind you, I'm still paying for the office space out of my own pocket. I'm not asking anybody for anything. I'm still
Right.
helping build their organizations out of my own pocket. Everything. But soon as oh man, they wouldn't smooth off. And then they got me in trouble. So I ended up having to leave the office space. 2020 hit and everything went virtual. So now I'm like, okay, here I am, and everything. And so, I'm trying to figure this thing out. I was like, well, maybe I'm going to do some virtual support groups. It's just me now. Right. So I did that. The struggle was real, right?
Right.
2020 up until 2021, a year and a half, or probably a little bit more than that. I'm doing weekly virtual groups. No one's coming. These men ain't coming. People that I'm on social media, I'm trying to figure out, like who else is out there that I can learn from and things like that. So I'm trying to connect with other individuals on social media and things like that. And no one wanted nothing to do with me. They were, And then a year and a half go by, I'm just like, remember that agreement that we had? I think it's time for me to stop, okay? Before it gets too far ahead, I'm just gonna go ahead and stop. And I tell you, between the podcasting, between the other people that I brought in to help build up their production company and things like that, I was on the verge. I was really close to just stopping and saying, screw it, this is not for me. This is way harder than what I expected. Right. But I built everything not knowing what I was doing. So I didn't know what else I expected from it. Right. I already don't know what I'm doing. I'm just doing this just because it felt like it was something I was supposed to do. That's it.
Right.
And I didn't understand that grief was still guiding me. It was still manifesting itself into the world. It was still, it was still building up. Right. It was still building up. And I didn't, what came next, I didn't see. And I've been playing this thing by ear ever since then. So then next thing you know, I'm doing a virtual group and, a guy shows up. I'm excited. Oh, so I pour into him. The next following week, I got a couple more guys to come. And I pour into them. And then it kept going and then it grew. Then it would go down. Then it would come back up. Right. And the podcast is doing its own thing. That was my very first podcast, Memories of Us, which was actually based around my nonprofit, right? And so now those people that had closed the doors on me in the beginning on social media begin to go, hey man, I would love to get to know more about you, right? I'm like, whoa, all right. So I did. I didn't get mad at them. I thought it was fascinating. And I was like a kid in the candy store. I was like, oh, this is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to get to know them.
Right.
Saying, no, now I'm meeting people from across the world. And they're all just like me. They're grief coaches, they're life coaches, they're mental health practitioners, trauma-informed coaches, therapists, psychiatrists. And so now everything is kind of moving in the right direction. But now the next following year, 2022 comes. And I say, I know all of these people. Crazy part about it is no one's working together. There has to be a way to bring us all together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had the bright idea of starting the very first ever Global Grief Conference, April of 2022. 3-day live stream event. Don't know what I'm doing. It showed, but the conference was beautiful. And I invited these people to come, and it was such a foreign concept to them that, no, you don't understand. I just want you to come in and do what you do. You don't have to pay for anything. I'll pay for it out of my own pocket. And then we'll host it live. Presentations, podcasts, whatever you want to do, right? I just want you to come and educate people on what you do. Mm-hmm. And it went off, and it was a beautiful thing. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So I want to ask you a question, Tony. I know that you've unpacked a lot right? You've unpacked a lot of Tony. You unpacked the different layers that Tony had to go back and talk to the young Tony. I know we've had some guests to join us as you have shared a lot of your story. But what we hear is that how trauma can manifest
Mm.
itself, right?
Yes.
That as you were chronologically growing older, that kid still was there asking for help, right?
Uh-huh.
That 6 year
Uh-huh.
old kid was still begging, screaming, hollering internally, like somebody help me because somebody's not believing in me. And then that 6 year old kid continued to feel like nobody trusts me, right?
Right.
Which then, as I
Right.
hear you say, it just festered into you not even trusting yourself. You're
Right.
not even trusting the decisions that you're making, but it becomes a survival of the fittest, regardless of what
Mhm.
that may have looked like, right? Even though it was a lot of irrational decision making, even though it was a lot of situations that caused other people harm. And let's stop here, the reasons of the why. Hurt people
Hurt
hurt people,
people. Yeah.
right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so it sounds to me, Tony, that as you were working through the fact of I can no longer live like this anymore. I can no longer continue to hurt people because as you're hurting them, internally you're still hurting yourself,
Hmm.
right? Did it get to that point that you said Tony has to begin to heal, even though Tony didn't trust himself and or what healing looks like? And I share this because I think, a lot of our listeners will be able to relate to that. When a lot of people look over their lifespan of different things that they may have endured, whether it was voluntarily or involuntarily,
Hmm.
that the first lack of trust, even though it's the outside people that we know we don't trust, it's us, right?
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
trust what it looks like to begin to heal because it's so foreign to us. We have lived a life of surviving, even
Hmm.
though it wasn't healthy. you
Hmm.
know and I want to share this, Tony, with our guests, and thank you for everything that you shared thus far. I often talk about a file cabinet, right? We as humans, we're the shell, right? What people see on the outside is what they see. And when we compare that to a file cabinet, we know a file cabinet have different drawers. In each drawer we're stuffing stuff in there, whether it's good stuff, bad stuff, stuff that belongs to us, stuff that doesn't. And many times we fill these drawers because we don't want people to see our mess.
Exactly.
Right? Let me say that again.
Exactly.
Many times we fill these drawers with stuff because we don't want people to see our mess. And then when we begin to say, I'm going to clean this drawer out,
Yeah. I'm
right?
going
I'm going
to
to clean
add
this
to that.
drawer out. Yeah, go
Yeah. I'm
ahead.
going to add to that because there's a quote that fits that perfectly. The biggest fear that most people have, majority of people have, is that at some point, people will begin to see you the way that you see yourself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? And what that means, when you've been hurt and carry around so much trauma and all of these different things that's never been dealt with, you still see the scared young person that you are.
Mm-hmm.
But on the outside, what people see is the mask that you've learned to wear.
Yeah.
And they think that you're this strong individual,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't know that inside that you're completely destroyed. And so as a man, that is your biggest fear. Because when people really understand how damaged you really are, how scared you really are, and the reasons why you do the things is because of a trauma response, because you have to learn how to protect yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to learn how to survive in this world. In our mind, we begin to lose value. We can no longer be the provider and the protector that you need us to be.
Mm-hmm.
And if I cannot do that, then I have no worth. Because a man is only deemed, you know, it's only looked at what we can give you, what we can provide. Are we willing to go out there and jump into a burning building or in a rolling car to protect the people that I love? Right? Am I willing to go out there and take a bullet for you? That's how we're deemed, how we're looked at. So yeah, the last thing I want you to do is look at me and think to yourself like, this dude ain't nothing. This dude is nothing. And so now this is how I have to maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
It's how I gotta walk and work with this.
Yeah.
And I got
And so,
look.
yeah, and I don't want to keep going back to this 6-year-old kid, right? But I'm doing that because I want our listeners to understand how trauma again manifests, and if we don't
Mhm,
deal with it, what it looks like, right? And so
yeah,
I want to talk about how that 6-year-old kid finally said, I am going to clean out my drawers of this file cabinet, no matter how uncomfortable it may be, no matter how much time it may take, no matter how much shit I pull out this drawer, I got to heal, right? And
yeah,
so oftentimes, even when we think about file cabinets, I got some file cabinets in my own home, right?
hmm,
Personally and literally.
yeah,
A lot of times when people begin to clean out their file cabinets, we go to what's easier, the surface stuff,
right,
that top drawer, right?
right,
Because it's right at our eye level, it's right at our hand level. We can just pull out that drawer, pull that stuff out, throw it away, and we're still wondering why are we still dealing with some of
hmm,
our old stuff? Why do we still get triggered off of some things that happened years
hmm,
ago?
hmm,
I'm here to tell you, listeners, it's because you're not going down to that bottom drawer. So let's talk about that bottom drawer,
yeah,
right? Tony
yeah,
made a decision. I don't care how much. I don't care how much it's going to hurt my knees when I bend down,
hmm,
right? I don't care how much it's going to hurt my back when I bend down. I don't care if the blood rushes to my head when I bend over to open up this bottom drawer. The only way I am going to heal is that I have to go to that bottom drawer of this file cabinet, which is that 6-year-old kid that's hurt. I have to clean out this drawer of this 6-year-old kid that's hurt in order for me to now move to the drawer above that, which
right,
was the next level of your
right,
hurt, right? And so, Tony, again, what I hear is that in order for you to heal, you had to clean out each drawer,
hmm.
as painful as it may have been. But by the time you got to that drawer above that 6-year-old drawer, it probably became a little bit easier because it didn't
No,
require.
actually, it didn't. It
Okay.
really didn't because healing hurts
Yeah.
regardless of how you look at it. It just depends on the version of yourself that you encounter. That's
Mm-hmm.
all.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it never gets easy because you're still learning about yourself. So when it came down to it, it really honestly made sense for me to work backwards,
Okay.
right? Because I had to figure out where did it start. Because here I am, I'm 50 years old, right? And all of these things I've been carrying with me my whole entire life. Eventually, the mind will push things away. It will
Mm-hmm.
cover things up. It will replace certain memories to keep you safe because it doesn't want to deal with the trauma.
Right.
It comes out in a more physical way, right? Your decisions in relationships, right? Your decisions in friendships, your decisions in how you live and how you survive, and all of these different things are factors that are played in. And so when I figured it out, because I was like, yeah, I need to figure out the source.
Mm-hmm.
I need to figure out the source. So I began to teach myself, and I still don't know how I did it, but I began to teach myself, and I began like during dreams and everything. I began to dream backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? From the time where I was like, no, that's not it. No, no, no. I had to go all the way back because this violence had to come from somewhere. This darkness came from somewhere. And every time I went, I was like, no, that was already there. No, no,
Mm-hmm.
no. Go back a little bit more. So it took a little bit, but every time I went to sleep, I went back a little bit further and had to be more honest with myself that these things did happen, that I did do these things, I did make these decisions, right? You know what I'm saying? And it hurt, but I wasn't addressing it right then. I was like, no, no, I have to go back a little bit further. Then I realized, I was like, whoa, that's that kid. And then I said, okay, let me just see something. And then when I went back a little bit further, then I realized, what I'm saying, I was at a point of where I was being born into the world. And I began to remember certain things. And now I can move forward. So now when I'm dreaming, I'm moving forward from that point.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm to the 6-year-old kid. And now I'm going, that's that's where it started. It didn't start before. This is where it starts. Let me see what I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go to that little kid. Let me be what I needed. Let me comfort him.
Mm-hmm.
Let me earn his trust. But let me not betray him.
All right.
I don't know the
Because
devil. If
he's
I
not used to that.
Right, he's not used to that, right? So I don't know if I betray him. You know what I'm saying? This version of me betrayed. I don't know if it's going to have another physical manifestation in where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where that compassion developed. That's where that empathy developed. Although it's just another version of me, you know what I'm saying? It's just a version of me that I don't understand. And I began to remember conversations, things that people used to say to me. Now I remember riding my bikes with my friends and riding my skateboards with my friends and climbing trees and playing football and all of these different things all the while I'm living that other life. I'm living a different life. So now here's where it gets real tricky because now I have to pull that version in too. And I have to learn how to walk. I have to learn how to talk with it. I have to learn how to protect it, to let them know that not everybody's bad.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're used to so many bad things, it's really hard to see the good,
Right.
even when it's right in front of you. Because everybody's the same at that moment, right? And that's what it is. It just made sense to start off at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what you call your version. This is what you normal people would call their version of rock bottom.
Yes.
That's where it starts. And that version of rock bottom is nothing there except for the pain that you've been carrying. And as a young man in the world, that can be very dangerous
Yes.
how we manifest ourselves into the world. Because I used to tell people, look, man, I used to get everything that I wanted out of life, but I never got what I needed. So when it came down to women or cars and things like that, I always got what I wanted, but never what I needed. It's easy come,
Mm-hmm.
easy go, right? You know what I'm saying? I know how to go out here and survive. So if I know how to go out here and survive, then then I can make it. But as I got older, I started seeing people that didn't live the lifestyle that I lived. That was okay. They had grass in their yard. They had fences. That they had families, and said, and they didn't have to worry about being shot or jumped or worried about the police harassing them. But I saw glimpses of it, and I knew I wanted to see what that was like. I wanted to see what that was like, but I just didn't know how to get there because
Mm-hmm.
everybody I knew was doing the same things that I was doing.
Right.
So it's really kind of hard to go in and dip your foot in somebody else's grass and stuff like that to see that their grass is soft. They ain't got drugs. They ain't got needles all over the ground. They ain't got people out there with their babies walking around in diapers, um, selling their babies formula for crack, or selling their babies food stamps to get crack to get the next hit. They're not out there doing the things. Now they do got their own fair share of skeletons in their closet. Like nobody's, like you realize that it's really not too far ahead, right? You know what I'm saying? There's not too much of a difference. Only one is just able to cover it up a little bit better than others. That's all, right? And so like I just knew I wanted something different. My son gave me that. My son gave me the opportunity, gave me a chance
Mm-hmm.
because I squandered being a father to my two girls because of my life. I squandered being a big brother to my sister because of my life. I squandered being a good son to my mother and my father because of the life that I chose to live. And I squandered so much really good relationships. I heard a lot of innocent women that, and they were good, and they didn't deserve what I did, right? But I was just so used to pain. That's all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I knew at that present moment in time was, and so I didn't know what a healthy relationship looked like.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it was okay to have an argument. It was just part of it, right? When you get in an argument with me, I cut you off. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, forget you. I ain't got to deal with yours. And I was really quick to set people up too, right? You know what I'm saying? Oh, you think this is gonna work? Oh no, it's not gonna work. I'm about to. It's gonna be the most minute thing that I'm going to use to walk away from you, and you're not going to see it coming, and it's going to suck. But I needed that pain. I needed that excuse. I needed it, right? Because I wanted to be able to go back and say, man, I told you how this was going to turn out. I don't know why y'all keep messing with me. Got me all out here looking all crazy and carrying on. I needed it. What I didn't see was the tears that they were crying because they were like, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to. He didn't have to go out there and treat me this way, you know. And it began to grow from that. Also, the growth meant destroying a version of me that didn't have a place in now. And my son gave me that. My son gave me a sense of purpose, a sense of forgiveness, a sense of accountability, a sense of going, you're damaged, but there's still hope for you. My son told me one day I got on his case because I was so used to being hard and things like that. My son said, Daddy, it's okay to have, it's okay for me to be a kid. It's okay for me to go out here and get dirty. It's
Mm.
okay to want to go and play with my friends and things like that. And I stopped and I was like, you're right. And I wanted to see life through his eyes. And I got 4 years. I got 4 good years because the first the first couple of years out of his life, his mom kept him away from me. She destroyed me. She destroyed me and my life in the process, homelessness and things like that. But I knew not to give up. She used the state of
Mm-hmm.
Colorado to me to drag me and demolish everything that I was. And they didn't care that I was homeless. They didn't. The only thing they would, oh, you're something with you. There's something mentally wrong with you. And so now I got to go jump through their hoops, homeless, trying to figure out things. But I didn't stop. No matter what she did to me, I did not stop. She called the police on me. She destroyed everything that I was, but she stripped away the version of me that was not necessary. So I appreciate her for that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when she finally did mess up and I got partial custody of my son, I knew what she was going to do. So she became very predictable. She was very smart, but the narcissistic side of her was a lot more dominant than her intelligence. So I watched and I paid attention. I was like, okay. So then she was like, well, I'm working 3 jobs. I need you to keep them a little bit more. I was like, all right, cool. So the next few years, it was just me and my Bubba. It was just me and my Bubba walking, growing together, learning, and him teaching me how to be a good father, me teaching him how to be a better man than me,
Mm-hmm.
and wanting to be in a good example uh, um, for him, be a good role model, to teach him how to go out into the world and not have to survive the way that I did. But I did tell him, I said, look, you're gonna have to go out here and let life on you for a bit, right? In order because I want you to become a good man. And in order for you to become a good man, life has to beat up on you a bit. You're gonna have to learn some things that I can't teach you, but I'm still gonna be with you. I and we may not have all the answers, but we'll figure it out together.
Mm-hmm.
And in October 31st of 2015, um, I watched my son go through a major overdose because his pharmacist decided to mix his medication wrong. That hurt.
Of course.
That hurt a lot. And to watch your own child having to go through something like that, and these doctors think that they got everything down packed, and they don't want to listen to you, right? Because they think that they're smarter than you, but they misdiagnose and they're treating them for what they've done. They're treating them for everything else because they feel like they're smarter than you. The mistreatment was there, really there, and then they come back and tell you, "Oh, he's not going to make it." Only to have 24 hours later, he wakes up and you look at the doctor and go, "You're an idiot." Now you just set yourself up for a lawsuit. How did I overcome the grief associated with the loss of time with your loved ones? What helped? What helped you set aside shame and guilt so that you could move forward and enjoy the present? To realize that time was subjective.
Mm-hmm.
It was very subjective. And that I never wanted my family to bail me out of anything that I got myself into. I could have easily went home. They would have taken me in, things like that, right? But I didn't want them to intervene in the process. And I don't understand why. I just knew I just didn't want them to, right? I got myself into this. I can get myself out. That's what I kept telling myself. I got myself into this. I can get myself out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to run home every time that something happens. I'm not going to run to mommy and daddy because I don't want them to baby me. I want to go through this. I have to go through this. And I don't regret ever doing that. Aside from the shame and the guilt, moving forward, it was accepting the shame and the guilt that I got myself into it. It was accountability. It was looking at everything and going, "Ooh, you messed up pretty good this time, Tony." Right? And the guilt of everything. Look, in my life, I have no regrets over anything I've ever done. And I'm not ashamed of anything I've ever had to go through. I am who I say I am through those experiences. If I had been, if I had carried that shame and guilt with me, I wouldn't be having this story right now. I'd be still dealing with that shame and that guilt. I enjoy the present because life taught me that it's okay to be present in these moments. I found my purpose through my pain, throughout all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found my purpose through the gift that was given to me. So everything had already been laid out. I just didn't know, right? I understand now and everything, so hopefully that answers your question just a little bit. And I can dive deeper into it if you want, just let me know. But, going back to when my son was overdosed, when my son woke up, we took him out of the hospital, we took him home, things like that. Things went good. His mom went right back to doing what she was doing. So now it's just me and my Bubba, and everything. And a couple months later, see, the one thing I didn't mention is that his mom, the reason why I got the custody that I did, because she proved me right. She was the abuser, right? She was verbally and physically abusing the kids because of her alcoholism and her multiple personalities, her narcissistic ways, and things like that. So that's how that turned around on me. And that took 2.5 years of patience and being brutalized by not only the system, but by her. You know what I'm saying? And having everybody like, "Oh, he's a piece of crap," and this, that, and another. And I was just like, "Oh," and I couldn't say anything. I couldn't defend myself.
Right.
And they just looked at me and was like, "Oh, if I did, they'd be like, see, we told you."
Right.
Took that beating. You know how humbling and humiliating that is to come from a place of being, a deep gang banger
Mm-hmm.
to having someone humiliate you like that, and there's nothing that you can do.
But just be still.
Just be still, be patient,
Just be
have
still.
grace, forgiveness. And deep down inside, you want to do something. You
Right.
want to destroy this person, but you can't
Mhm.
because you made a promise to your kid that you was going to teach them to be better than you.
Right.
And so I did. And so, and after that, I had to go get my son from his mom's house twice, 7 days before his birthday, which was December 18th, which is just 4 days ago. My son would have been 17 this year. Yeah.
Take your time.
Right. And then I had to go get him maybe 7 days. I had to go get him a couple of days before Christmas because his mom decided to beat up on him again. And I took him away from her. I told him, call it. I told her, call anybody that you want, but you stay away from us. I'll raise him.
Mhm.
I'll do my best to raise him. And she did. She stayed away for about 3 months. Finally came back around. Was like, I just need to see him. And I asked my son. I said, "Do you want to see your mom? If you say no, you don't have to. Stay with me. Just stay with me. I got you." Right? And my son, he said, "Daddy, that's my mom, and I love her."
Mm.
And I realized that he had such a forgiving heart. And in June, the next following year, like he went back around, she behaved herself, but I still had him majority of the time.
Right.
And in June 14th, he got sick, and I didn't pay too much attention to it. Kids get sick, right? He was just out playing with his friends, Saturday night, and we were just eating cupcakes that night and watching a movie, father and son time, and all of these different things. And he got sick, um, and then 2 days later, I watched my son die.
Sorry about that.
Oh, don't be, um, because I had the time of my life with him,
Mhm.
you know, and it was hard watching him pass away because no one. It's every parent's nightmare to outlive your child,
Right.
and then only to have um, them tell you that they don't know why, right? So that's something that you have to live with. That's an open wound. Doesn't doesn't quite heal.
No.
You learn to deal with the emptiness inside of it, and you fill it in with different things. But it did take me a little bit. It did take me
Mhm.
a little bit of time, and then 2 years later, my sister calls and say, "Hey, mom's in the hospital. She had a stroke." So I had to fly back home. 2 days after I got home, I watched my mom pass away. So now everything is different.
Mm.
The world's changed. It became a very lonely place for me. And I came back to Colorado because I didn't want my sister to see the emptiness in me. Because she has a lot of great things going on. She got 4 daughters. She's a grandmother, and I wasn't going to interfere with that. I had been gone for so long. She didn't need me,
Mhm.
right? At least that's what I told myself.
Right.
You don't need me, baby girl. You're doing so much better without me.
Tony, can I ask you a question? As you have um, gave us a timeline of things that went on with your son, he passing, and then months your mother passing thereafter. Anytime in that point when we look back at trauma, right, and things that sort of stay in our head even when we don't want to relive or remember, did those words ever come back? Man up.
Oh
Did
yeah,
those words ever resurface? So,
oh
talk.
yeah.
Do you mind talking to us about that? Because these are pivotal moments in your life, once again,
Hmm.
of two individuals who were very close to you, your child, which I can relate, and your mother, which I can
Mhm.
relate to that as well.
Well, four, because dad and younger brother is already gone, and then my son. So these are important people to me in my life,
Correct.
right?
Sorry.
And so it's
Right.
a no, you're totally fine. So yeah, man up came in because when I came back, after my son passed away, you know, I was really heavy into church, things like that. I had a really good church family, um, and so people knew because I did the service at the church, and so people was watching me. And I had to man up
Mm,
because I refused to let life whoop up on me. I refused to let this thing take me under. I refused to be beaten. Yeah, you've taken everything away from me.
mhm,
You ain't whooping me. You're not gonna whoop me. I'm a
mhm,
man up. I'm gonna push this thing down. I'm gonna show you how strong I am. This time I'm not gonna hurt nobody. But I'm gonna keep going though.
mhm,
That's what I kept saying. I'm gonna keep going because you ain't whooping me. You can't whoop me.
mhm,
And the more I said that, the more it whooped me. And then when my mom passed away, and I came back, I said, "You don't understand. You're not whooping me. No matter what you do to me, you can't beat me. I will survive this."
mhm,
Man, this is what people expect of me. Don't nobody want to hear you crying, Tony.
mhm.
Don't nobody care about what you're going through. You better get yourself together, man. You still got bills to pay, man. You still got people out there that look up to you. They don't care nothing about you hurting. This is what I kept telling myself, and I kept going. I kept going. I kept going, and the more I kept going, the more my decisions became more reckless.
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you how reckless one of my decisions was. It was so reckless that I left the state of Colorado and I moved out to South Dakota, only to find out that the girl that I was with was a racist.
Mm.
I lost everything. Lost everything. Now I had to come back to Colorado with what I had. I still was like, "I'm not losing. I'm not going to lose. No, I'm gonna keep doing what I need to do. Right now, but I'm homeless. I'm homeless. I've been homeless since my mom passed away. That was 7 years ago. I've been homeless this whole time.
Mhm.
Right? And so I'm bouncing around. I know I can't stay too long at some of these places because they got families. I'm a grown man. No wife or what I'm saying, no man with a family is going to deal with another grown man sleeping on their couch around the kids and it's and things like that. Although look, my dudes was like, dude, what I'm saying, you good and this, that, another. Hey man, you still got a wife. You
Right.
no matter what happens, you still have to provide and make sure that you're doing what you need to do to keep the peace in your home. So I
Mhm,
had that understanding,
mhm,
right? And so I knew moving around, staying in my car and this, that, another, I couldn't complain. Cold nights, I made the best of it. I mean, I was working, right? You know what I'm saying? So, I was using that money for once in a while. I go get into a hotel room. I can go take a shower. You know what I'm saying? Let me do some clothes so I can have some clean clothes and stuff like that. Let me get my deodorant and everything together because I still have to uphold my my image of being a strong man.
mm,
I am manning up. Regardless, I'm still manning up, right? Until that term "man up" got me in the middle of a desert, about ready to blow my brains out. Because I
mm.
realized I wasn't doing too well.
Yeah.
I realized I wasn't doing too well, right? All this time that I thought that I was being strong and what I'm saying, moving forward, I wasn't. I
Words have
wasn't.
power. We
Words
have to
have
be
power.
careful. Words have power. We have to be careful of what words we say, right?
Pride and
And we,
ego.
yes, and we definitely have to be careful of what words we say to children because they
Yes.
look up to us as role models. So to them, we do no wrong,
Yeah.
right? They're looking at us to tell them right from wrong. But sometimes we have to realize the generational curses of things that we have been taught as a young child that we take into our adulthood and we take our
Yeah.
trauma and we
Yeah.
then spite upon our children,
Mm-hmm.
not
And that was
realizing
something I
that
didn't want to
words
do.
hurt. Right.
Yeah,
Words
I
hurt.
didn't want to do that to my son, but now, here I am out here in the world by myself, yet again, alone. Um, and I really can't go home now. There's
Mhm.
nobody there except for my younger sister. I hadn't talked to my younger sister since my mom passed away. And then before then, I had been gone away from home since the early 90s. And so you got 30 years right there where, no one really understood what I was going through. No one knew what I was going through. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? What I need to tell you for? What you gonna do? What you gonna? You gonna help me? I'm the older brother. I'm the one that's supposed to help you.
Mhm.
Not vice versa. No, 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 no. We ain't doing none of that, right? And that's what man up got me. That phrase right there has killed so many men,
Yes.
and I realized that because I couldn't man up anymore. I was battered, beaten, bruised, tired. Just didn't want to do it anymore. I
So
didn't want
Tony,
to do
let's
this
pause.
anymore.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Tony,
no,
let's
go ahead.
pause for a second. As you said, so many men have heard man up. So many mothers, being single mothers, sometimes tell our young men to man up. What I
Mhm.
want to do right now is pause and ask you to get some affirmations that mothers can tell their sons, that fathers can tell their sons, and that men who are living with that phrase of man up can change that language to something to be more powerful for them. And I understand that if they've been carrying it for so long, that's a whole breakdown they have to rebuild themselves from. But
Mhm.
do you mind sharing some affirmations that we can share here on this podcast for
Yeah.
young men? And I'm very inclusive in my podcast, but definitely to our young Black men out here today. What are some affirmations that Tony would share with our men today instead of man up? Because that's not helping.
First things first, you gotta tell your young man that you love them.
Mhm.
We don't get told that enough. Um, Tell them it's okay to hurt. Hug them. Make sure you create an atmosphere where they can be vulnerable and cry to talk to you. Things like that. Don't ever shut them out.
Mhm.
Don't shut them out. Listen to them. They're telling you exactly what we need. So there's really not a whole lot of affirmations. Like men are very simple. Men are very, very simple. But throughout life, we get taught different things, and so we carry those. But we don't get told that people love us enough. People
Mhm.
are so quick to cut us off after saying, oh, we want you to talk, we want you to be vulnerable, we want you to be open, and this, that, and another. But then as soon as we talk, you cut us off. You don't want to hear what I have to say. You want me to be a man of my word when I say something. I want you to be a woman and a man of your word when you say something to me. Allow me to talk without interruption, without making it about you. I'm not trying to compare my story to yours.
Mhm.
Don't compare yours to mine. Because for one, the one thing that you will find out, women, most women don't have enough life experience to equal that of what that man is going through. That's just the bottom line. We're taught to survive in the world. I mean, except for Keisha, because Keisha been fighting her whole daggone life. Right? You know what it's like to go through the foster system. You know what it's like to have to go out there and have to fight people on the streets because that's who you were, right? And because that's how you express how you was feeling. If I hurt, I'm gonna hurt you, right? But that's very seldom. And there are other women out there that are going through something similar. So I'm not
For
taking
sure.
nothing away from them. And so when it comes down to it, telling someone that you love them is the strongest words that you can ever do or have for someone. Creating an atmosphere in such a destructive environment to where people can feel vulnerable, feel safe, that is strong too, right? Listening,
Mhm.
walking with us, things like that. These are very simple things, very simple things that people can do that don't cost nothing. It really don't. Right?
Mhm.
It doesn't cost anything. And so, that's where it starts. And then from there, building trust, holding that trust. Women, stop teaching your man that is what a man is supposed to be. Stop doing that, please. You know what I'm saying? That's not your job. And plus, a lot of times when you do that, and I'm not saying that all women are the same, I'm just saying from what I've seen a lot of times, especially when you got a mama's boy, they listen to you, right? Um, Stop teaching our young boys to be the men that you want, because the men that you want don't even want you. That's just the truth. You teaching your man to be this, that, and other. Teach him morals. Teach him respect. Surround him with other men, because what you're teaching him is only going to go but so far. But it's going to take a man to teach him how to be a man, right? It's going to take that man to teach him that, hey, this is what the world is offering you. Now it takes, if you want your young man to be successful, set him up with around other men to have mentorship.
It's not a
To be
call to action.
right.
It's a call to action.
Right. It's a call to action, right? Put him around him. Let him see what it's like to be successful. Let him see what it's like to build a business. Put him around mentors. Put him around people that's going to hold him accountable. Put him in places where he can have extreme fellowship around other men. Let those men show him what it's like to be in a healthy relationship. Because if you're a single mom and you have no healthy relationship, what are you teaching him? It's okay. You mean well. Put him around people who's doing those things.
And Tony, I want to add a little bit to that too, being that I once was a single mother as well. And I still am a single mother with my younger son. I think the call of action doesn't just have to be the mother placing that child around those role models, right? Because sometimes
Mhm.
women may have some trust issues of their own, right?
Right,
Based
right.
upon maybe what they have went through. So I think it's not just about the mom reaching out to these men, but I think it's just as important for the men when they see these young boys in the street, or when they see this mother is struggling, doing her best, whether it's because she's working a 9 to 5, working 2 to 3 jobs, doing whatever she can to support her family. I think it's a call of action for everyone. It's a call of action for the mother to try to find those positive role models in their community. But I think it's also the men's responsibility as well to also do the call of
Yeah,
action to surround it, whether it's having, I know we don't really have as many big brother, big sister programs in the community, but developing something that's similar to
mhm.
a positive role model for these young men. Because again, children many times implement or exemplify,
Okay, okay.
mirror many times what they see
I,
sometimes.
I want to add to that, right? You know what I'm saying? Just play out this scenario. How protective are you of your son?
I'm very protective.
Ah, so
Very
now,
protective. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
here's the thing. Let's play this thing out. There are good men out there. They
Hmm.
may see you struggling, but you've gone through what you've gone through. Your go through. You've had to survive. You've had to go through these things. You're doing whatever you need to do to make sure that everything is good at home. You're doing your best,
Hmm.
right? You're doing your best. So when that man comes in and go, hey, you know what I'm saying? Hell no, you don't know him like that. What I need to trust you for? Because you already said you got trust issues. So what
Hmm.
you gonna trust me for? The
Right.
same people that look like me were the same ones that gave you trust issues, right? So
It's gonna be a catch
now
22.
it's a catch 22. So are you going
Hmm.
to allow me to come and hang around your son, or are you going to be protective of your son? Because the first time something is said to him that you do not like, you're going to punch that man in the mouth. Although
Right.
his intentions was good. Come on now.
Right.
Come
It's a
on.
catch
It worked.
22 for sure.
It's a catch 22,
It's a
right?
catch
And you
22.
can look, and I don't take nothing away from these mothers out here. I think they're doing wonderful jobs. But when it comes down to those young men and you're a protective mom, you don't allow good men to go in and help those young men,
Hmm.
because you don't want the same things that happen to you to happen to him.
I remember
You've
Tony, I used to
taken on
always,
the
I'm
role.
sorry.
No, you've taken on the role as protector. and provider for that kid. That's not your role. Your role is nurturer.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point. Yeah,
Yeah, so come on now. You ain't look, Keisha, I love you, but you ain't throw punching me. You ain't
you
chasing
brought up,
me down the street. You ain't look, I'm too old to be running. Okay? I'm too old to be I'll you mind if I come get little man for a little bit? Bring him around some other man, things like that. And I'm gonna shoot an email. That way, when you email me and you cuss me out, all I gotta do is delete it.
well, you bring up a good point, Tony, because I think back to when my older son, the one who has since passed, when he was growing up. Again, he was a very troubled young man for many different things that had occurred in his young life and things that he wanted, not meaning monetarily, not meaning tangible, but internally he didn't have. And there was a gentleman in the community, and anybody who's watching this podcast that's from the Charleston area, you probably will know who I'm speaking of when I'm talking about this. There was a gentleman in the community that didn't look like me, didn't look like my son, but he always surrounded himself with the young men in the community. And at first, as a mother, what you're saying, I was like, who the hell is this person? And why the hell is he coming to pick up my kid? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he would just show up. And finally, one day I had a conversation with him. And I said, I must know, why do you keep coming to my home, picking up my child, and you're not talking to me? And his exact words to me was, ma'am, I'm sorry. Many times I've invested myself in kids' life and I didn't know who their mothers was. I just knew they needed a male figure in their life and they trusted me. And I didn't know to come to talk to you because I didn't realize that John had this mother who blah, 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 whatever it may have been. Right. I say all that to say, once he and I were able to converse with one another and have an understanding, he is probably one of many role models in our community. And again, he doesn't look like me. And what do I mean by that? It's not that he's not a female. He's white.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But he's truly invested in our young men in this community. And it shows. Like it shows, like he's built different community. He's built a community center, a safe hub for our children. Many of the kids that he mentored, the young men that he mentored, are now working at that facility and they're giving back to our young men. So when I speak of, our young men or our men pouring into our kids, I do agree with you in regards to, we as mothers, we do have trust issues, right? Yeah. But it's having those defined conversations and understanding what somebody's real intent is, to be able to say, okay, I do trust, but it is a tough thing to do. I ain't gonna lie to you. It is a tough thing, but I go back to say it's the call of action, because our young men, and I'm not saying our young women don't, but our young men need it, because I often would say, I'm a mother who's raising a son. I want to teach him what I'm expecting of him, how to treat another woman. I don't know what it's like to be a man.
Right. Okay. So I want to add to that too. I want to add to that because you said something and I don't want people to miss what you said. That man took the initiative to come by and pick up your son. So your son already knows what he's about. If there was anything else going on, your son would have let you know. Right? Hey, this dude, he's a bad dude. But he got nothing but positive things to say. So now you're curious. Who is this dude that my son trusts so much? See, he took the initiative and he says, you know what? I see where the problem is. I'm going to be a solution. And in order for me to build trust with the parents, to build trust with the kids, I'm going to give them a safe place. So if I show them this thing over here, if I show them that I got you and I have a safe place for you to come, now when mom comes out, the kid is going to be like, no, mom, he's one of the good ones. So, you know what I'm saying? Instead of going through that, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, there are men taking the initiative. There are men stepping up and saying, look, you know what I'm saying? I will mentor you. I want to make sure that you have everything that you need and this, that, another, right? You know what I'm saying? So now, there it goes. There it goes right there, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to trust your child before you trust that man. And it sucks that our women have had to go through these things because, you know what I'm saying, because the men that you surrounded yourself with wasn't the best.
Right.
And it sucks. It sucks because you know what? I'm going to tell you, Keisha, I used to be one of those guys that helped some of those women have those trust issues. I was,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then I got mad when it got done to me. Ain't that about nothing? Now I'm good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
good. Okay. I'm not about to do none of that. I no, 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 no. I'm good. I'm good. I'm gonna take my time this
Mm-hmm.
time. I'm gonna learn how to love me for a little bit, right? You know what I'm saying? Maybe a whole lot. I'm gonna learn how to love me just a little bit more, right? I'm gonna learn how to take care of me. I'm gonna learn how to cook my own meals. I'm gonna learn how to go to the gym when I'm supposed to discipline myself,
That's the
right?
healing.
Respectful and be respectful. Because here's the thing, right? My gift of grief is so profound that although I work with men, women are attracted to it. And so now the version of me now versus the different versions of me before would have taken advantage of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because I didn't understand trauma bond. I didn't understand that my gift was what was calling them to me. They wasn't here for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They wasn't here for me at all. Now I pay attention. I listen. When a nice young lady comes up and they go, oh my God, I want to get the chance to get to know you, things like that. I automatically go into listen mode, just so I know how to conduct myself. Now I'm always going to be respectful.
Right.
I'm always going to be respectful. I, I won't dare disrespect another individual as long as I live. Right? And I won't dare take advantage of another individual for as long as I live. I
Mm-hmm.
won't do it. I refuse to. And so when the conversation comes, often most of the time they never know what I do now,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they always like, oh yeah, I had to go through this and I had to go through that, and I've been through this and I've been through that, and and so now I'm listening because now I understand why you're here. You're not here for me.
Mm-hmm.
You're here for my gift. So now my goal, my mission and service to you, I have boundaries up. I can't do this over here, but I can love you mentally. I can love you emotionally, and I can love you spiritually, but I cannot be physically intimate with you out of respect for myself and out of respect for you.
Mm-hmm.
You place of vulnerability. My gift has called you to me. So I'm going to walk with you, and you know what I'm saying, and be a good friend to you. Maybe, you know, share, share a little bit about, about taking care of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Make you laugh a little bit more, right? And watch you start to heal. But I'm going to connect you with other women, things like that, because I don't want you to get the wrong idea.
Right. Right.
I don't want you to do that. I don't want any miscommunication. So no inappropriate touching or anything like that. I'm gonna give you a hug, but it's hey, 3 second hug now. You gotta go. You gotta pause
Right.
me, right? Because I don't need you thinking emotionally like, oh, this dude is into me. No, no, no. I've already set that boundary up. I don't need you rubbing up against me, and I'm not trying to rub up against you, right? You know what I'm saying? We can be friends.
Right.
We can be friends because I know that once I'm done with you, you're going to be a good match for the person that you're supposed to be with. Right? That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So my gift has said, this is the road that you're on. And it's a very lonely one. You're the seasonal one.
Right.
You're not meant to be someone else's forever.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to be someone else's first choice.
Right.
Yeah, and so therefore don't be an option. Don't do that to yourself. And this is what my gift tells me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I go, okay. And it goes, you're only here to walk them to their next destination. Then you have to go somewhere else. So no one's going to understand that. But as long as you remain respectful, you'll never have to explain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I've stayed that way for like the last 5, 7 years.
Yeah. You know, Tony, much of what you share with our listeners today, as well as myself, is the shattered paths, right? The
Mhm.
shattered paths to sort of go with the whole concept of um, heart to heart with Keisha B, the grief, the healing, the unforeseen circumstances, and how do we how do we walk this shattered path to get to a point of triumph? How do we walk this shattered path to get to a point to where I can look at it and say, I'm not that person anymore. I don't forget, right? I don't forget what I went through. I've forgiven those who've caused me to go through some of the things I went through, but I don't
Mhm.
forget, right? And so I share that, and I pause for that moment to say to our guests, we all have shattered paths to some capacity, right?
Mhm.
The cracks in everybody's road ain't gonna look the same, but we all have shattered paths. But my question to you is, not to you, Tony, but to our listeners, what steps what steps are you taking on that shattered path to begin to heal? Right? What steps are you taking on that shattered path to realize that some things that you may have went through may not be your fault, but it is your story, and that you can
Yes.
heal from unforeseen circumstances. You can heal, excuse me, for things that is causing you grief, whether it's losing a loved one, whether it's making some poor decisions in life, whether it's facing addiction, whether it's facing homelessness. These are things at times that are just sometimes out of our control, but they are our story. But we can heal from things that are put in front of us, whether it's taking a detour, right? Or whether it's walking on it very cautiously to get to the other side. We can all walk this path of healing.
I want to add to that, right? For those who may be out there struggling as well, trying to figure out their life and thinking that they don't have what they need in order to get there. I'm gonna tell you a secret. Something that I kept to myself for a very, very long time because I didn't want people to know what was going on in my life. It wasn't a sense of shame. It's because I never paid attention to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I told you, I've been corrected and redirected and guided and humbled and you know humiliated through all of these things. And there's one thing that's always been consistent, right? I was always homeless. I built everything that I have from the ground up while I was homeless. So having an office space, starting a podcast, wrote a book, doing these conferences, what I'm saying? Everything that I've done up until 8 months ago, I've been bouncing around from place to place, I, working nights, funding my nonprofit, so I can do support groups, so I can take the money and help someone else who's homeless. Maybe get some toiletries, toothpaste. Maybe go and buy them some clothes so they can go to a nice little job interview. Spending my money, get them into a hotel room so they don't have to sleep on the street for a week or so. I did that, and I'm gonna tell you something. It cost me everything. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Mm-hmm.
I would not change it for the world. And no one knew, and everybody kept thinking that I was this. Like I had all of this money and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I don't have all of that money.
Mm-hmm.
Hell, you know what I'm saying? I just recently 8 months ago got into my own place,
Right.
which is just a 1 bedroom apartment, right?
But it's yours.
But it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
I'm telling you, you don't have to have everything in order. You just have to start. I'm telling you, look, I did it. And I'm not trying to be an inspiration to anyone. I just want to be an example that if your heart is set on something and it's good, don't 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 let the little things hold you up in thinking that you don't have it all. You are enough.
Mm-hmm.
You are enough. You're gonna have to go through some things. It's gonna cost you. You know what I'm saying? But it's part of the process. It's part of the process that you have to go through. I'm telling you, I did it.
Mm-hmm.
I did it, and it cost me, but I still did it. And so for everyone out there, that's thinking that it's impossible to heal from those things, you can do it. You need individuals like myself and Keisha B and so many other people out there to walk with you. Allow them to walk with you. Allow them to be able to pour into you. See, it's one thing that I realized about my gift. That's this beautiful thing called grief. You know what I'm saying? And I love it. It's my lover. It's everything that I am. It's who I authentically am. Right? I don't know how to be nothing else. I don't know how to do anything else. I just know that this is who I am. If you can surrender to the process that it is and allow it to take you where it needs to go, it will do wonderful things to you. It will do wonderful things for you. Ask questions. Grow within it. Be creative. But make sure that someone else sees what you're doing and be the example for them and how you put your footprints in the dirt. Let them see your when you're down on your knees. Let them see when you're beaten and battered and crying. Let them see your darkness. But most important, let them see your light.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are needed in this world. I'm a small fish in a large pond. I just learned how to swim. That's all. I just learned how to swim. I eat when I can, right? You know what I'm saying? I'll eat my little fish pellet, right? You know what I'm saying? And I go, and I'm not running from the big fish. I'm not running from the sharks. I'm swimming right with them. They may turn around and try to take a bite out of me, and I just swim under them.
Yeah.
Right? I'm real fast. See, they're big. You can't get me underneath, right? You know what I'm saying? And if you try to get me to a little corner, I just figure it out and go on about my way, right? The one
You
thing
learn how to survive.
no, I learned how to survive, but now I'm learning how to live. I'm learning. Is it a challenge? Yes. I'm nowhere close to where I want to be, right? And I've traveled the world. I've traveled the world and done guest speaking. I never got paid for any of that. Wrote a book. I paid to write the book. I don't make money off of that, but it looks good. I can say that I did it. The magazine, I did that, right? And it cost me. There's times when I can't afford to do it, but I still did it, and I'm still going to, right? I got another book that I'm doing. Yeah, I'm going to finish that too, right? It's going to cost me, but I'm still going to do it, right? Because of the simple fact of it's what you leave behind in this world that inspires other and it inspires other people to do better than you. I want to do that. I want you to come behind me and say, "Oh, I could do so much better than that, Tony." I want to be that for you. There's nothing more beautiful in this world, Keisha, than seeing somebody become successful. I don't care about me. I don't need nothing from. I have a nonprofit, and I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't want your money. I don't. I don't want you. You don't have to donate to me. Keep your money. If you have a family and things like that, and you have goals to keep your money, I don't want it. I don't get grants. I don't have donors. I don't. The website is just there, amateur at best, right? You know what I'm saying? But I do some pretty cool stuff with it, right? I can go ahead and change it around if I want to. I don't want your money. I don't want your money. I want you to use me. I want you to use the gift that I have. If I can give you information that can help you, I'm going to do it. I'm a servant. And the beautiful thing about it is that I'm not needy. I will walk you to your next destination and go on about my way. I'm just going home. That's it. I'm just going home. And I'm trying to get back home the same way that I came, with nothing in me. That's it. And if it means that I don't pour into me, that you know what I'm saying, that God pours into my cup enough that I can pour into yours, I will give it to you. I will keep pouring into everybody else's cup till I have nothing else left. But that's what I'm here for. If you choose to bash me and humiliate me and try to destroy me, that's fine. It's not the first time, but I can forgive you. I'm not going to go back after you and try to do anything to you because I don't want that anymore. But if that's what you feel that you need to do because you're hurting, do it. I'm okay with that. But I'm just saying you don't have to.
So, Tony, I think we're at the point that normally I ask my guests to give a heart to heart message to our listeners. I feel that you've given a lot, right? Like you've provided our guests with our listeners with a lot of heart to heart moments that they can package up for themselves and pull out, right, when necessary, when they face those challenges in their life, and when they face those unforeseen situations, or when they're faced with triggers that they just didn't recognize it was going to surface. And so, as we are getting closer to the end of our live session today, I want to allow for you to give an opportunity to share with our guests where they can find you at. I know that you have a podcast. I'm going to go ahead and put the name of your podcast up. It's, if you all can see, it's scrolling there at the bottom of the screen. But please tell them where they can find you as far as your social media handles, and if there are certain days that you do live cat, that you do your podcast on, that you drop your episodes, as well as for our men out here who may be looking for a life coach or a grief coach, could you please share with them that information as well before we end our podcast for today?
Most definitely. The podcast is on YouTube. Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. I try to do a daily podcast, and I have a lot of amazing people coming. So if you go to the channel or something like that, you can be able to check out. You guys will actually be able to see Keisha B's podcast on there as well. Her live that she done with me. So go in there and check those things out. But most importantly, pay attention to the guests that I have on there, because the podcast does serve a purpose, not just having conversations around grief, trauma, mental health, and addiction and things like that. But these people are actually individuals that are in the field. Reach out to them. The information is there. For those that are looking, for those men out there that are looking for a men's grief coach, right? You can find me, Memories of Us, or Tony Lynch on Facebook. You can find me as Tony Lynch on LinkedIn. You can find me as Men's Grief Support on IG. Reach out to me. Please reach out to me. You can go to my website, and everything is www.mensgriefsupport.org. And I have a program that I'm starting back up next month. This will be my second go with it. Beautiful program called Resilience. It's for men. It's 12 weeks. Come in. It's free to attend. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's going to be both virtual and in person. So if you're in Fort Collins area and you want to come out, go there and find it. You know what I'm saying? There's a QR code, all kinds of stuff that go along with that. And I got a conference coming up next year, which is a Global Grief Conference 2025. We're doing big things. We got live music, live comedy. We got live podcasts, workshops, webinars, presentations from people from across the world. If you're a grief worker, or a mental health practitioner or a therapist, and you're looking for a place to be surrounded by some good people, and you're looking for ways of collaborating, or looking for people to network with, come find the Facebook group, the Global Grief Network. So go come there. We accept you in with open arms. It's a great place to be. But you can also find it on LinkedIn as well. Just type it in. It'll pop up. Um, Other than that, like even with the magazine, Grief Talk magazine, it is the first ever magazine designed around grief, trauma, and mental health. We offer articles, we offer different podcasts in there. We offer resources and stuff in the events, right? We encourage people to write letters that you send in, your letters that you've written to your loved one. We would love to showcase it in there, right? To bring a light to you and say that, hey, we see you, right? And it's a beautiful thing. And so then you just go in from there. You just keep going, and whatever. If I'm able to help you in any way, mind you, I'm not asking for your money. I'm not. If you do decide to subscribe to the YouTube channel, it is appreciated. It helps us get it out there. If not, that's fine too. Enjoy the conversations. And other than that, guys, I am on social media. Right, I'm out there, and just keep in mind that there's people that genuinely want to see you heal. I'm one of them, right? There's enough hurt in the world. There really is. But I tell you what, there's a lot of communities starting to heal. Be a part of that. Be a part of that. The rest of it, we'll figure it out as we go.
Yeah. So, Tony, as I tell all of my guests, thank you for bringing your life to our live podcast today. Thank you for providing words of inspiration to those who may feel like they're alone or feel like they don't know how to move forward beyond where they went through. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for feeling like today you didn't have to be the man, that you could truly pour the real you out with our guests. And I know it's not, I hope, I know that your words today have inspired someone. My hope, though, is that your words have touched our young men, or that if it's touched an older man, that he would go and pour this information into the younger men that's in our community and all of our communities that are looking for someone to tell them they don't have to be the man. They're looking for someone to tell them it is okay to cry. They're looking for someone to tell them, even when they fall, not to shut up and get up and keep moving. We need more men like you to tell them that it is okay to cry. It is okay to just be human. And with that, everyone, I want to thank you for attending and being engaged in Heart to Heart with Keisha B. Tony, again, thank you for all that you have shared with our guests this evening.
Thank you for allowing me to come on. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning into Heart to Heart with Keisha B. Remember, grief may shape our journey, but it doesn't define who we are. Healing is not a straight path, but with every step forward, you're creating space for hope, strength, and new beginnings. If today's episode brought you comfort or clarity, share it with someone who might need it too. Let's continue building this community of compassion and resilience together. Until next time, take care of your heart, your mind, and your soul. Honor your journey and always know that brighter days are ahead. I am Keisha B, and this has been Heart to Heart.